As a woman who has always been very horny, like my libido has always been high, I feel like the conversations we have about lustfulness versus sexual liberation, especially when it comes to talking about men, pisses me off. Because when we're talking about men that are incredibly lustful, they have a wandering eye, yet they're in relationships with women, it comes down to the idea that a wandering eye and lustfulness is not about sexual liberation, it's actually about entitlement. A wandering eye and inability to stop watching porn, all the pages that you follow, that's not a hormone issue, that's a value issue. My sexuality is something I own, not something that I weaponize, which I feel like men do that whenever you're like, hey, kind of bothers me that you're jerking off to these random girls online. Women are not props for men's impulses, and a high libido is not an excuse to treat them that way. I think in an era of trying to encourage women to be sexually liberated, which I completely agree with, we then have sort of pigeonholed ourselves into not being able to understand why there is a difference and discrepancy between men who are lustful and doing these things versus women who are kind of stepping into their power as being sexually liberated. Sexual liberation is about agency, not impulse, and to say that acting on any sexual impulse is liberation is incorrect, in my opinion. I talk about this a lot when it comes to pornography because I'm pretty adamantly against the consumption of it, but I'm also, like I said, a horny motherfucker. So to balance that, I think is to understand what it actually means to be in touch with your sexuality and feel sexually liberated in a safe way. Having a porn addiction and following these random women online under the guise of men being visual learners, there's so many faults to that, but it's not actually a sign of a high libido. It's a sign of your ability to detach and fully objectify people. Okay, I'm a naturally sexual person, all right? And I always have been, baby. But I'm not lustful because libido is physical, but lustfulness I would categorize as a worldview. One comes from biology and the other is coming from how you choose to see or objectify women. Or people in general, I suppose. In fact, I think all forms of liberation, not just sexual liberation, is ultimately aligned with respect for yourself, for your partner, for others' autonomy. And it's hard to be a horny girl in today's world. Look at how y'all responded to Sabrina Carpenter, saying that she was, breaking women steps behind because of her album cover and because she decides to be promiscuous and sexually liberated, as if so many male artists aren't singing and rapping about how they... What? And they're not being accused of setting men back. Anyways, point of the thing is, shame should not be placed on the desire, but rather on the disrespect. At the end of the day, women, we should continue to be horny. Being horny is human. Hashtag horny is human. But being lustful, I think, is something that we can all collectively work on, and what that actually